Laziali all over the world, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile and I'm joined with a guy I know, Alasdair McKenzie. Alasdair, it's bizarre because Lazio won and I said, well, we played so bad, it feels like a defeat. And I have been hammered for my quotes. Where do you stand? Good to get 3 points, but I mean, the performance against Cagliari 10 men down was dreadful.
Just good to hear you're being hammered. More Vittorio hammering, the better, I say. Well, I mean, the first thing is, I think this is one of the first times I can ever remember you turning up for a podcast and you're not wearing a Lazio shirt. So I think something serious has happened, Vittorio. What's going on? What's going on there? It's like you're dressed for a Lazio funeral.
Simply, it was cold, so I decided to not put the Lazio shirt, and I'm wearing one tomorrow night. Coppa Italia is coming on, so. But
very exciting.
It was cold. It's cold today. It was very cold on Saturday, and Lazio didn't warm up the atmosphere.
No, well, I think it's natural that after a game like this, you'll always have people who are very unhappy about what they've seen, and let's not deny that the reaction when the full-time whistle went was that thousands of fans booed their own team off the pitch regardless of the win. So they can't say that is a minority opinion. But you also have a lot of people who fairly say the results what really counts. I guess the issue is a lot was made in the build-up to this game after the Celtic win from inside the camp, not just from fans, but from Sarri himself, saying most important thing is kind of how we back this up, what the attitude of the players is like on Saturday at home to a weak team. And then also because the start couldn't have gone any better. Lazio scoring inside 8 minutes is not something we've seen much of. And then Cagliari having a man sent off. And that is there as an opportunity to really put the foot down and for once have an easy day. And instead it ended up being a very nervous day. And the team's mentality, I think, can again be questioned because of the way they responded to that situation of being a man and a goal up. But look, it is true, 3 points at this stage is still really important, and 2 clean sheets in a row is still very good. So it is definitely possible to see it both ways. But to answer your question, let's not kid ourselves. That was not a good performance.
But again, going back to the performance, if 3 points are very important, don't get me wrong. But if I wanted to win playing badly, then I would hire Mourinho, not Sarri. So, I mean, we have Sarri on the bench for one reason, and it's to try to win playing good football. And we didn't do it on Saturday. And I think Cagliari, bottom of the table, 1 man down after, 35 minutes? You had one half with superiority, and it was probably the worst half of the game. We played much better in the first 15 minutes when we were 11 against 11 than afterwards. So this tells you a lot about this team. So again, the clean sheet, yes, but only because Provedel made an unbelievable save in the last second. Otherwise, we were talking about conceding soft goals again. So I'm really not happy about this performance. We wasted too many chances. Again, we have to talk about Castellanos missing a couple of very good opportunities. We have to talk about midfield that disappeared in the second half with no reason. And I mean, Ranieri, it's a very smart manager. Down 1 man, he put pretty much the bus in front of the goal. They played like 10 players behind the ball and didn't offer too many opportunities. And in the last 5 minutes, he took off one player and put another striker and played with a 4-3-2 and tried to win because they know that Lazio was scared. And this is the biggest concern. Lazio players were really scared. You can see it. And the fact that in the last 5 minutes, Cagliari had 3 chances tells you everything about this club.
Yeah, and the kind of Petagna and Pavoletti against Patrick and Gila, the aerial matchup there was slightly alarming. So it wasn't a huge surprise to see the chance coming as a header. You're right, Provedel, amazing save, and look, he has bailed Lazio out at times in the last month or two with some huge saves, and he's had a big week because he started this week with a fever that almost ruled him out at that Celtic game, but he's come back to get those clean sheets, and that is the positive thing, I guess, about this recent run where performances have not been good, but the team has rediscovered a bit of that defensive solidity. And okay, they lost it at key moments. They lost it in Salerno badly, but to be able to get back-to-back clean sheets when you've got Patrick and Gila as your centre-backs, a partnership who until just over a week ago had never played together this season, who are the third and fourth choice centre-backs in this team, I think they do deserve a bit of credit for that.
Do you think they're still third and fourth choice?
I think Patrick's bumped himself up to number 2 by now, ahead of Castelli. But I would still think Gila's fourth, yeah. Do you think he's done enough to change that?
I don't know. Well, Casale has been playing so bad. The problem with Gila, and you mentioned it before, is like he cannot play with Patrick. I mean, he's doing it now because we are in a huge issue. We are missing 2 central defenders. But I think we have the smallest central defenders couple of the universe with them playing together, right? I mean, I remember Patrick marking Lukaku at the derby, and I was concerned. You mentioned Pavoletti and Petagna. I think they have like 30 centimeters higher than Patrick and Gila together. So on the long balls, we struggled. I thought they played well, to be honest, but it's not a long-term solution. I mean, Gila can play instead of Patrick, but together it's quite difficult. But overall, they had a decent game. I thought Lazio and Marusic let us down in the last 10-15 minutes. That was concerning. The other question I have for you, Alasdair, is: were you surprised that Rovella was substitute at the end of the first half?
Very, yeah. I assumed there must have been an issue there, but I've not heard about one. So,
well, someone I was talking at halftime, and a friend of mine was saying, "Hey, Rovella's playing badly in this first half," and I thought, well, he made a couple of mistakes, but I thought overall he was playing decent football. But it looks like Sarri didn't agree with me. But Cataldi came in and wasn't that good, right?
Yeah, I think look, I mean, a man up at home in those types of situations, you're relying on your midfield to be controlling that game in a way that I don't think they did very well. And this is not the first time, I guess, this season we've looked at our midfield and wondered what's going on. The injury to Alberto is a huge concern. Especially the way it happened, where as soon as I think he just kind of turned in midfield at one point and started a sprint, and as soon as he did it, he was gesturing, "Take me off," and so that is alarming, if not altogether surprising, that he picks up a muscular injury after playing as much as he has this season. But yeah, I think that going back to the red card moment, I think that sent the game in opposite directions in a way, because what it did for Lazio was it made them a bit too complacent in their approach, with thinking the game was basically over. And we probably all did as fans as well, but we're allowed to. They're the professionals. But so I think their attitude may have become a bit more complacent by that, whereas Cagliari's flipped and they became a lot more determined, because from their perspective, they're a goal down away from home. They know they need that, ultimate high level of concentration and compactness and communication and everything. So the game became more difficult for Lazio against 10 men almost than it was against 11 men.
Can I ask you something? I mean, you lost against Salernitana, you lost against Lecce, you lost against Genoa. how can you think the game is over against Cagliari with one man down? I mean, the story of this team tells you that against small team, they all switch back to Real Madrid type of football. I mean, I was scared. I was there and I said, "Hey, this is gonna be a nightmare. The Cagliari is gonna defend for 90 minutes, and then in the last five, they're gonna bring a striker in, and they're gonna score the equalizer at the last second."
Yeah, I mean, look, there were chances though. It's not like they offered nothing. I mean, there was a really big chance when Isaacson got away on the counter and could have played Pedro in, and eventually the ball was worked to him and the keeper made a save. Taty Castellanos, I think we're going to have to talk about, had a couple more that he couldn't score with. So it's, so much recently when we're discussing Lazio's performances has been about this complete inability to create anything. And I don't think it was that they failed to create anything on this occasion. They didn't manage to finish off the game, because I think a second goal would have done that. But it's more just you want to see them, put a bullet to the head in those moments and just finish it, put it beyond doubt, because that would have made things so much easier. I think if you go 2-0, 3-0 up, you can start making changes, you can start resting a bit. Because, like you mentioned too earlier, another midweek game coming up against Genoa in the Coppa Italia. It just doesn't stop at this time of year, but instead we're all left sweating.
Alasdair, we talked 11 minutes about bad things. Let's switch a little bit to the good thing. I think Gustav Isaacson is the most positive thing of last Saturday. Do you agree with me? Very encouraging signing. Already against Celtic on Tuesday, he had a good game. I thought Saturday was encouraging signal from Gustav Isaacson, who didn't have that much help like he had on Tuesday. But definitely we saw a player who is improving, who looks much more into this team. And seeing how Zaccagni and Felipe Anderson are playing, I think he will be playing more in this December.
Yes, and well, I think it was good to see he was trusted with a start again, and then good to see again that he was given as much time as he wanted. I mean, I think it was 80-something minutes before he was taken off, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But yeah, I wrote a whole piece about this last week after the Celtic game. I just think he's someone who offers something completely different to the rest of that attack, because he's trying to make things happen. And okay, he is getting decisions wrong, like the one I just mentioned, when he should have slipped in Pedro, and instead he tries to cut it back and get into space and overplays it a little bit. So there will be moments like that, but I don't really mind, because he's quite one-track minded. He's got one idea in his head, which is to create and score goals all the time and attack. And I think that has been quite refreshing after watching an attack that's often been far too cautious, far too disciplined, and lacking a bit of that creative instinct. So I don't think his game against Cagliari was as good as his performance against Celtic was by any means, but I'm still encouraged that he's getting more trust and getting more game time from Sarri to use this squad and kind of fulfill the potential of this squad a bit more. But yeah, I mean, again, I think at a certain point, from all these forward players, we want to see them just starting to contribute more in the goals and assists columns. We want to see them filling up.
What do you think about Pedro? I mean, he scored. He started well. I think he simply doesn't have any more 90 minutes in his leg.
I just think he's amazing. At his age, to still be going and producing and the way he is, and he's still so dynamic and still has a burst of pace and that real agility. The way there's one moment in the game where he was kind of found the ball under his feet with about 3 defenders around him, and he just kind of spins away into space and manages to keep hold of the ball. And he's just a really clever, intelligent footballer. And yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, but I think that goes to show how important it will be to find a good rotation system with this forward line this season. And Pedro so far has been used as the kind of third choice generally behind Anderson and Zaccagni, but he's really made an impact. I mean, I've not checked, but I think he's our highest scoring winger at this point. He must be.
Well, it's too easy. I mean,
Yeah, well, I think Anderson's got one and Zaccagni's got none. So, whereas Zaccagni got one, maybe.
yeah, Zaccagni goes one against Torino. So,
But yeah, so I mean, he is making a real contribution and a real impact in games, and he can be forgiven for not, being a 90-minute player every week. I mean, he's old. He's old.
I want to talk about rotation in Castellano, but first, what do you make about Kamada playing again left winger in the last minutes of the game?
Yeah, it's a bit surprising. I couldn't quite work out if that was like a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 or what was really going on there, because it looked like both at times. But yeah, I'm not against that as an option just because Kamada clearly is a versatile player. I think he can play in a lot of different areas. The problem has been trying to find the one area where he's going to really excel in this team. And that is a strange situation to find ourselves in, because I think at the start of the season, it looked like that was the easiest of all the problems. He started playing as Ahmed Salah and started really well, scored a great goal against Napoli. And since then, it's just become a lot more difficult for him. So, look, I think if Alberto is going to have some time off with this injury, it really is his moment to step up and start contributing. Like I said after the Salernitana game, I didn't think it was fair to try and blame that performance on Kamada replacing Alberto. I think that's totally unreasonable. But I think if he's given, the responsibility for a run of games, hopefully he can kind of thrive with that responsibility.
Yeah, it was strange. She started the season. It's true we lost 2 games there, but I didn't think it was all Kamada's fault, to be honest. He scored against Napoli and then he was benched. I guess the problem is for Kamada that Guendouzi make more sense playing near to Luis Alberto than Kamada. But if you sign Kamada, you have to have a plan to make him play with Luis Alberto. I mean, we are talking about a quality player, and keeping on the bench like this, doesn't make sense to me. It's a waste of money. And why then you go and sign Kamada if you think he's the replacement of Luis Alberto?
Yeah, I mean, look, Sarri's just being cautious, hasn't he? He always has with new players, and it's always been about that his methods are complex, that he wants players to come in as soon as possible in the summer so that he can train with them. The players who have fitted in the quickest have been the ones who are most experienced, I guess, in Serie A, like Vecino, like Romagnoli, who he feels like Provedel, who he can kind of drop into this team a bit more easily. But others, even Casale really had to work hard to be given his spot.
But he started. I think this is related to our performance. I mean, Lazio has been struggling, conceding far too many goals, and so he thought, I have to find something else. I put Guendouzi. I think he will provide more help to our defense. And now we are starting to concede less goals, and he thinks, that's the right solution. Maybe if we start to win a couple of matches in a row, maybe Kamada will be playing a little bit more. I think so. I'm not sure about that because Sari never mentioned. But my opinion is with Kamada, we were struggling. We were conceding too much. So Sari said, first thing, let's get our defense back. And for doing that, let's play Guendouzi close to Luis Alberto. Make sense?
Yeah. I think Guendouzi is now being looked at as a bit of a crucial connecting player, the guy who is going to make this work. And we've talked a lot this season about the efforts to find the right balance in that midfield and how we get the defense to look solid while the attack can create. And I think Sarri is now looking at Guendouzi as being a big part of that. And I think that Rovella, Guendouzi, Alberto midfield is more and more looking like the first choice, strongest combination to provide a bit of balance. Rovella, I think, has, for me, looked a lot better defensively than I expected him to when we first signed him. And he's also good on the ball. He's got that technique. Guendouzi is a classic number 8, so he can get up and down. And obviously, Alberto is a good number 10. So I think that does make sense on paper as a combination. I'm perhaps been a bit unfortunate with now a few injury problems and niggles here and there that have stopped them from connecting as much as possible. But I think there's more to come from a lot of these guys. Yeah, like Isaacson, we're finally seeing it now. Kamada, we definitely need to see more from. I think Guendouzi as well. We'll get more out of. And then Taty, Taty is one we need to speak about because there is an increasing kind of attention, should we say, being put on his lack of goals, let's say, and his lack of finishing. So what did you think of that on Saturday?
Well, on Tuesday, Taty started and Ciro came in and scored twice. Against Cagliari, Ciro started and Taty came in and had 2 huge opportunities, in my point of view, and he missed them. It's true he posted on Twitter, I don't know if you saw, that the first chance, it was a clear hold on him and probably a better referee would have given us the penalty. But I think still you have to score there. He's starting to miss far too many opportunities. This is starting to be concerning because it looks like, watching the last games of Lazio, that if Ciro doesn't score or Pedro doesn't score, we don't score goals. And the result, I think we scored 1 goal per game, right, so far in Serie A, which is definitely not enough. And we need help. I mean, we cannot rely all on Ciro. Taty has been bought to help Ciro, replace Ciro, score goals when Ciro doesn't play. And, against Celtic, Taty did the dirty job. He tired the Celtic defense and Ciro finished it up. Saturday, it was the other way around. Ciro tired the Cagliari defense, so Taty should have finished. He did it.
Yeah. And what he will know by now, if he didn't before, was that in this team, he's unlikely to be getting, 6 or 7 chances per game because the team just isn't creating enough. So when he's getting those 2 or 3, he really needs to make them count. And, one of them, the one where he was running through on goal, to be fair, that was an unbelievable recovery tackle from the Cagliari player. So there was that. Then there was the one at the corner, I guess, where it was a kind of instinctive prod straight at the keeper. It all happened very fast. Then again, I guess you'll hear some people saying, yeah, but a more instinctive finisher instinctively knocks that low rather than in the middle of the goalkeeper's reach. So,
to be honest, he had another chance in extra time where he put it wide. Again, you have to score one of those 3 chances. As you were mentioning, Lazio doesn't create that much, even though against Celtic we did. And you ask your number 9 to score these goals. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. If you don't finish games, as you were mentioning at the beginning of this podcast, then you will struggle against every single team. You put Taty Castellanos in the last minutes to do so, and he didn't. So I'm starting to get concerned. Don't get me wrong. He's probably the best vice immobile we ever had. I don't consider Caicedo a vice immobile, so that's out of the equation. But I felt, considering Murici and all the other players we had, he's definitely the best one. But we need a number 9 that scores, because Lazio's game is all focused on Ciro, and Ciro scores. So if Taty Castellanos needs to come in, he needs to finish. He needs to deliver.
It is kind of like faint praise to say someone is Lazio's best vice Ciro, considering who we've had. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I think he is being given more patience than Murici, because I think people can see that his performances are he's a better fit for this team. I mean, Marici, people could immediately see from a mile away that he wasn't ever going to be the right kind of player. It wasn't necessarily about his ability so much as the fact he's this giant, towering target man who was never going to play in the way they wanted him to. Taty does play in that way, and he is linking up with the team pretty well. He is finding chances. So for Taty, it's just about unlocking that, and I hope it's not getting in his head too much, and that there will just come a point where he just, sometimes all it takes is one game that he kind of, things start working for him, and he maybe simplifies it a bit more and just finds a way of unblocking that. This game on Tuesday is perhaps an opportunity for that, because he should be given a start. Well, according to reports I've read so far today, and if he is, it's still Genoa. They're a good Serie A team that's caused us plenty of problems in the past. And but I think in these kind of Coppa Italia last 16 matches, there is always an air of kind of, it's slightly experimental, and the atmosphere is one of less pressure, even though, there's a potential Rome derby quarterfinal awaiting afterwards. I think that it will still feel a bit different to a Serie A match. So I really hope that's a moment that he can make a breakthrough. It is annoying we've not been given a really easy Serie B team, though, isn't it? I mean, that would have been nice.
Yeah, and it's strange because we finished second, so this doesn't make sense at all. But this is Serie A. It's crazy. I think he could start even against Verona next Saturday, a very important game for us, because we need to win this game to get back on top, because we won against Cagliari, but the table didn't move that much for us, right? So we need to win, because then the next week there's Inter coming at the Stadio Olimpico. So that's a much more difficult game for us. We have question marks because we don't know if Luis Alberto will be back. I saw a couple of players tired. And, another thing I wanted to talk to you before we could wrap it up is Marzic didn't play great football. Lazzari started very well, in my opinion, but made two silly mistakes at the end. What's happening with Pellegrini? Is he still part of the team, or we sold it and no one mentioned it?
Yeah, well, he's another great example of a player who it feels like Sarri's just kind of made up his mind about a little bit. And I don't know, Marasic is his man. Marasic has played more minutes than any other outfield player, I think, with the exception of Romagnoli, actually more than Romagnoli by now.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably the most selected outfield player at this point. And yeah, okay, he can play on the right or the left, but his performances haven't been great since the international break, I would say.
No.
And yeah, Pellegrini does, again, it's like the Isaacson thing. He just offers something different. So if you're struggling a bit and you're needing a bit of a spark to change things, to just ask a few different questions, then I don't see why Pellegrini can't be given more opportunities. He clearly showed enough to Sarri second half of last season on loan to convince him that he can be a permanent player. He had his trial and he passed. Yeah. So that's the strange thing about it.
Absolutely. I mean, he should be the most ready signing we made this summer. I mean, he was there for 6 months, so he should be absolutely. Yeah. This doesn't make no sense. So it's really bizarre, honestly. I don't know what happened. He started the most important game for us against Atletico Madrid, and that was the only start, if I'm not wrong. So this is even more curious for Pellegrini. So really, I don't understand. Alasdair, I want to ask you a question. In the Saturday where Donnarumma gets sent off after 10 minutes and Provedel makes an unbelievable save, do you think the national teams should change the goalkeeper?
I guess the question is, if they did, would it be Provedel who comes in? I mean,
Vicario's playing really well, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, I think Provedel and Vicario are both playing better than Donnarumma.
Yeah. And I don't know, did you see the red card? It was so bad. Yeah, I just can't see that happening. And look, I think at this stage, the Euros draw has just been made. Obviously, Italy have a nice, easy group with Spain and Croatia.
Someone said, well, but Croatia is not the Croatian team that once was. I wanted to reply, yeah, instead Italy is the great
Yeah,
Italy.
have you seen the Italy team? Well, the world gets to see Scotland on the opening night as well, hammering Germany 7-1, so that's good. Yeah, but I think with Euros, when it gets to the stage where it's 6 months away, I just can't find it so hard to imagine Spalletti making any big changes and that would be a huge, huge call. I know what you mean, but I think by this point, it's not based on form so much as having the right group together, and there obviously are differences between the way a player behaves and performs in an international camp compared to club camp. So I think that's really hard to foresee. But look, I mean, I just wanted to finish on a more positive note as well, because the thing I do find mad is that Lazio have been very inconsistent and not particularly impressive this season. And yet we are still, you said it, the result doesn't change the table that much. And you're right, it doesn't, but we are still looking at it 4 points off the top four. I mean, how is it possible that there are that many teams between 4th and 9th who have been this inconsistent this season? But somehow Napoli's issues, Roma's away form has just meant that
Napoli have lost
still
5 games
in
at home this season. Napoli have lost 5 games at home. This is incredible.
Yeah, I saw they flashed up during the Inter game last night that they're home in the home form table. They're 16th.
Yeah.
It's just
it's incredible. It's incredible. The other thing I wanted to point it out, Provedel proves to be an incredible goalkeeper. Against Salernitana just 1 week ago, he made one big mistake. I would say even the first goal he could have done better. And then 7 days later, he's, don't know if man of the match, but he made a 3-point save. And it's not easy. After a bad mistake, it's not easy for a goalkeeper to react. You see Donnarumma, when he makes a mistake, the game is over for him. So this tells you how good mentally Provedel is. And this is a very important sign, even because on the same team, we have Provedel reacting, and we have Lazio and Marzic that in the last 5 minutes of the game were like third division defenders, making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the team's had 6 clean sheets in 8 now, something like that. So that side of things is starting to look a lot more like last season, and the problem is still like last season. When Lazio concede, they basically lose. Well, but at least they don't win. And I think the Atalanta game was, if I remember correctly, the last time we conceded a goal and won a match, and that was a while ago now.
Yeah, it's incredible. We play against Fiorentina, Feyenoord, Roma, Salernitana, Celtic, Cagliari, and the only team that scores us is Bologna and Salernitana. I mean, we didn't concede goal to Fiorentina, to Sassuolo, Feyenoord, etc., and we conceded goal to Salernitana, who, of course, after the great victory against Lazio, what did they do this weekend? I mean, huge defeat.
Yeah.
We are terrible.
Which is what's supposed to happen against Salernitana. Yeah, well, exactly. But there's definitely something to build on there. It's just, it is this, I don't think it is right to brush away these performances, because, you look at the top 4 and 4 points away and okay, we're just sticking in it. But we're almost at the halfway stage of the season. And at a certain point, it does need to feel like we're making progress, and the defensive side of things, there has been progress, which is good, but the control of games, the mentality, the approach to games in that respect is still not where we want it to be, and certainly the attacking side of things is miles off where we want it to be. So yeah.
Alasdair, before we wrap it up, I asked you something on Twitter on Saturday and you ignored me. So I'm going to ask you again.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's so bad. Then people complain why I offend you. You don't reply to me. I mean, this is embarrassing. But anyway, Ross County game got cancelled because of frozen pitch. I mean, you're in Scotland. Can you be surprised or unprepared because of frozen pitch?
You clearly haven't seen how bad the weather has been in Scotland.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. That's a fake pitch as well, the one at Livingston, I think. Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. It happens all the time, though, in Scotland.
How can it be possible? I mean, it's like they cancel game in Italy because it's too hot.
Well, because the UK, I mean, we're getting onto a completely different conversation now, but the UK is not well prepared for bad weather. Like, if you compare it to Scandinavian countries or Canada or places that have serious bad weather, they are not prepared for it. Like, because the UK's weather they don't get ridiculous snow and stuff that often. So when it happens, they just get caught out. I don't know. But yeah, it was frustrating because Ross County are back, Vittorio. So,
I mean, are you a joke? I've been living in England and it's freezing cold and it snows every season. So, I mean, how can you not be prepared? It's mind-blowing.
I know this will come as huge news to you, but I'm not in charge of these things. I'm not in charge. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, again, it's annoying that you don't answer me on Twitter.
I'm glad I managed to annoy you because I completely forgot that happened.
Yeah. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. We're going to go to I'm going to Lazio Genoa and Coppa Italia. Alasdair is too busy to attend to these games. So we'll probably do another podcast maybe after the Coppa Italia game, but definitely one after Verona Lazio, another very, very important game. We need 3 points away against a lower league team. We badly need it, even because Napoli's playing against Juventus away. There are some games that could help Lazio climbing up the table. So we badly need to win this game. And let's hope that Lazio plays a much better game than they did on Saturday.
Yeah, and let's not forget, after the international break, this was a period we were looking at the fixtures and saying, right, if we can find it now, this is the time to push up. And then the Salernitana result happens and that whole idea goes up in smoke. But there is still, this managed to get the points now against Cagliari. If we can do that against Verona and against Empoli, which is coming just after Inter, then that's already, stacking up a few much needed points. So
yeah, it's true that we are stacking up injuries as well.
Verona beat Roma in August, I think the first or second game of the season, and they've never won since. So it is a Salernitana style game. They really have to be going up there and winning.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up after the game. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Thanks to our Patreon. We couldn't do this podcast without you. So again, thanks for your help. And if you have the chance, rate and review the podcast. Help us grow our YouTube channel and our podcast, wherever you listen. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.